WrestleMania 41 Night 1 may have been one of the worst WrestleMania shows in recent memory. No, it is not the worst. That honor could go to several different holders, including WrestleMania 9, WrestleMania 27, or even, arguably, one of the most underrated worst WrestleManias of all time, WrestleMania 34, where Roman and Brock Lesnar stunk up the main event for about 30 minutes. However, WrestleMania 41 was plagued by two major factors. The first being WWE, and more specifically Triple H's lack of interest in booking and building a quality WrestleMania card. WrestleMania 41 was Triple H's third as the head of creative of WWE. It was his third as the lead in charge of the event, and there's no doubt that it was his weakest showing as a booker to date. The build of Jey Uso and his first WrestleMania main event, quote unquote, the build of Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair coming off of Charlotte's return and Royal Rumble victory, the build of a triple threat match that was worthy of the main event, even though it wasn't for the belt, between CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins, all with Paul Heyman in the background, each presented the opportunity for Triple H to tell a prolonged, fun story that engaged fans leading into the show of shows, as we have expected and come to see in his past showings as the event creative director. But that didn't happen. Jey Uso is no better for having won the WWE World's Heavyweight Championship from Gunther in a match that underwhelmed even those who had the lowest of expectations. Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton had a match that was, yes, technically sound, however, lacked the aura and mystique and pageantry of a WrestleMania main event level match. And while the storytelling and the twist at the end of Paul Heyman turning his back on both Roman and CM Punk to side with Seth freaking Rollins was a great twist, it just didn't live up to the billing that was set before it. The entire show was underwhelming, and that is not something that we traditionally say out of Triple H booked WrestleManias. WrestleMania 39 to this day is still probably one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. WrestleMania 40 had one of the best endings to a WrestleMania that we've ever seen, and both were accompanied by fantastic builds in the months leading up to it. So the problem for Triple H is it just seemed like the build to this year's WrestleMania was lackadaisical in nature and just done so in order to get to the show of shows. And this is kind of where we get into the other big problem as well with WWE in recent years, and that is their over-reliance on aura, their over-reliance on the product being as hot as it is, and it all points to complacency. WWE right now is as complacent as they've ever been creatively. This is even though they have AEW pushing them. This is even though they have the TKO machine behind them. This is even though Triple H, someone who was lauded for nearly a decade for his ability to cook while he was in NXT, to tell fantastic stories, and when compared to Vince McMahon was absolutely night and day as a booker. But right now, they are making more money than they know what to do with. Right now, they're as hot as they have ever been. Ticket prices have been inflated to the point where several hardcore wrestling fans are being boxed out, while WWE is catering to a more affluent fan base that might be able to afford their exuberant prices, but might not be as engaged as a regular hardcore audience member would. And that is why the aura and the crowd of WrestleMania Night 1 for 41 was so down. I don't think I've ever heard a crowd at a WWE WrestleMania level show in years as bored and as quiet as this one. Yes, there were moments that got them out of their seats. There were moments that got them a little bit excited, but throughout the night, it did not feel like this crowd was engaged with what was happening in the ring before them. It just felt like many of them were there to enjoy the show, and that is valid. If you pay that much money, then you're gonna enjoy the show, and I don't blame you for it. But the crowd does help make a show feel better, and one that was booked and built to be as weak as this one probably needed a crowd in order to get people out of their seats, in order to get people excited, in order to get people at home more into what was happening in the ring, and that just wasn't the case. And when WWE is making that money, and when fans are clamoring and they're setting gate records as they did with WrestleMania this year, they're gonna book the show with a lot less care than if they needed to work in order to get those big gates, in order to break these records, in order to put butts in seats. Right now, they don't need to work for it. Right now, they don't need to tell the most compelling story possible. They know that they are a clear number one. Hell, they just acquired AAA. They just acquired all of their big stars. They are touting this absolute monopoly that they are about to build in professional wrestling in front of everyone's face. And there's nothing that anyone can change about it because they are booming in the way that they are. They're as popular as they've ever been. They are as synonymous with pop culture as they've ever been. So if you're looking at this from WWE's perspective, why would you need to change? Why would you need to put more care into your stories? That is what I think this all boils down to. It boils down to that complacency. And while there were some moments and matches that were better than others, big shout out to Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill. Like I said before, the Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton match was technically very sound, and CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns was a very good match, but none of them lived up to the hype of WrestleMania. And I don't think what many fans who are criticizing this year's WrestleMania are requesting is for this to be better than what we've seen the past 2 years. But I think what we are expecting is for it to at least feel comparable, for it to at least rise to the occasion. To me right now, this WrestleMania ranks right down there with the bottom of the barrel. That does not mean it is the worst, but it is among them. And granted, it's only one night, but night one WrestleManias traditionally have been the better show. Night one WrestleManias have traditionally set the tone for how the show is remembered. And right now, the vibe of night one of WrestleMania 41 is not up to a good start. Will they save it with night two? It's possible, but hey, I guess we'll see.